me turn my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo. Where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course, and today is Thursday, so it means time for our Thursday Trends episode. Man, what a shit show. What a shit show of a week, the first week of Donald Trump's second term as president. It's off to a very scary start. I'm going to try and cover as much of it as possible, particularly as it pertains to our community. There's a lot going on. There's even things that were news that was breaking today. I'm not a legal expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just going to kind of read to you what I've been seeing and the information that's been out there. But yeah, just weird, scary times, I guess, as to be expected, but does it make it any less jarring? So we'll talk a lot about Trump today. I'm going to also talk about a follow-up to that story of the woman who set fire to businesses in Puerto Rico. I talked about that. She's a woman from Missouri, a tourist. She has now since been arrested, so we'll get into everything that is the latest update when it comes to that story. And I'm going to kind of play it by ear. There's some drama going on with Daddy Yankee and his ex-wife. We'll see if I have time to get into that. And then on the positive side of things, I was going to promise this is the last time I'm going to talk about it, but I can't make that promise. We just have to touch on what Bad Bunny just did when it comes to his residency in Puerto Rico. It's incredible. It's inspiring. And I'm going to touch on it for our Mi Gente segment because we need some fucking positivity. With that said, as we always do, man, let's start with the nonsense, the BS, in a segment we call For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back.
All right, so I apologize if you're watching the video version of this. I'm looking at my laptop because I somehow broke a cable that connected to like the screen that I normally would have, that would, I doubt anybody actually cares. This is my own OCD. But I usually would at least have like, I'm looking at you as I'm, reading important documents to make sure I don't fuck it up. I have to look at my laptop because the cable that connects to the screen, I somehow crushed it and broke it when I was moving some furniture around. So I got to get a new one. With that said, Trump, day one in office, which was the 21st of January, which was Tuesday. Well, Monday technically was inauguration day. But anyway, this whole week, he's been fucking making it rain executive orders, many of them targeting immigration and asylum seekers. There's been a lot of fear, a lot of people talking about ICE raids happening. And I want to preface it, there's a lot of information going back and forth about all types of random shit. Some of it being misconstrued, some of it not. I mean, fucking at the inauguration, Elon Musk threw up what looked like the Nazi salute. They're calling it the Roman salute. Just like, I think we all expected this whole thing to be odd, to be weird, to be fucking jarring and frustrating and upsetting. But I think it's one of those, it's like different when you're actually experiencing it in real time. And it's like, I can't wrap my head or logically get behind the idea that the world's richest man would end his speech at the inauguration for the new president by purposely giving a Nazi salute on global television. Like, what I'm saying is I can't seem to digest that being intentional. Like, I'm not trying to let him off the hook because it looked like what it looked like. It felt like what it felt like. But it just seems so fucking crazy that I can't seem to accept that that's literally what happened. Like, I just, maybe I'm refusing to accept that that's the world that we live in, where that kind of shit is so blatantly open. But again, it's like, it's the same gaslighting that has always happened that during, Donald Trump and anybody associated with him. It's like, they do these things, it looks and feels like something, they try to tell you it's something else, and then it's just chaos that we all talk about, essentially. There was also reports and people posting that the White House took down the Spanish language version of the site. Again, there's all kinds of shit. There was like a button on it originally that said "Go home," and then they changed it to "Go back to homepage." I know some people were, and that was what happened. That was what you saw when you went to the what was supposed to be the Spanish language version of the website. And some people were like, "Oh, the go home was a blatant message, like literally go home." And others were like, "No, they just like put go home instead of go back to homepage," and they clarified it later. Again, I would like to believe it was just somebody being an idiot, or I mean, somebody might have been being fun. Like it's. I don't even want to fucking like digest it or fucking try and make sense of it or react to it even. Like, I'm trying, when I'm going into this presidency, I know I haven't gotten into any like the real stories yet, but I'm trying to just kind of be like, not reacting to the theatrical bullshit, but just trying to stay like grounded in the facts of what's actually happening and not be distracted by like the gaslighting and the sort of poking that they're purposely doing to get us all riled up, if you will. And that's what my goal is. I don't know how long that's going to last. He also for the January 6th committee, for the January 6th rioters, he gave them all pardons, even those who were violent, even those who assaulted police officers. They were given pardons. Again, it's like the hypocrisy. The party of law and order, we're supposed to respect our military, respect our police, right? That's like the critique that they have. And it's like, their whole thing of if you weren't doing something wrong, you wouldn't have trouble with the police argument. Yet, here they are pardoning people who assaulted police officers at the Capitol. It's just a crazy amount of hypocrisy, and it's sad. But that's the world we live in. I haven't read as much into this, but I also was seeing that he apparently undid much of the police reform that Biden had done. There's other rumors about him enacting things that could allow reversals of things that happen in regards to Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. Again, a lot of like assumptions and talking heads, and there's so much fucking noise. Who knows what is what? I don't know if what the fuck is up or down at this point. A lot going on. So much going on. I just, yeah. There's a lot to digest, a lot to make fucking sense of. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know anymore. Anyway, back to what's actually, the important thing at hand here. Let's get back to some of these executive orders, right? So on his first day back in office, and I'm getting this from wearemetoo.com, President Trump wasted no time launching a barrage of executive orders on immigration. From the Oval Office to public addresses, Trump's actions signaled a return to the hardline policies of his previous terms. These moves, aimed at reshaping U.S. immigration policy, have already sparked outrage and legal challenges from advocacy groups. All right, I'm going to try to get through. There's like a bunch of stuff on here. One of the things he did was ending birthright citizenship. This is one of his most controversial executive orders on immigration, targeting birthright citizenship. According to the Washington Post, the order stipulates that children born in the U.S. to parents who are undocumented or on temporary visas will no longer automatically qualify for citizenship. Trump's order claims that the 14th Amendment has been misinterpreted an assertion that has drawn sharp criticism from constitutional experts. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, swiftly filed a lawsuit against the order. Quote, denying citizenship to U.S.-born children is not only unconstitutional, it also is a reckless and ruthless repudiation of American values, end quote. Constitutional law experts like Hiroshima Motomura from UCLA agree that Trump's interpretation would require an amendment to the Constitution, a process far beyond the reach of executive authority. Now, this one I know was incredibly scary for a lot of people whose parents weren't born here, but they were born here. And what does it mean for them? Now, this one has been blocked by a federal judge. This happened today. I'm still reading up on it. But Judge John Cohaner, who sits in Seattle, granted the request by the Washington Attorney General Nick Brown and 3 other Democratic-led states for an emergency order halting the implementation of the policy for the next 14 days while there are more briefings in the legal challenge. Quote, I have been on the bench for over 4 decades. I can't remember another case whether the question presented was as clear. Where were the lawyers? Is what they said. I don't know why I can't read right now. I have like a headache talking about this. I'm getting myself like frustrated. Where were the lawyers, quote unquote, when the decision to sign the executive order was made, the judge asked. He said that it boggled his mind that a member of the bar would claim that the order was constitutional. The Democratic-led states are seeking a temporary restraining order as they argue that Trump's executive order is a blatant violation of the Constitution's 14th Amendment, which guarantees citizenship to all children born on U.S. soil and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So this is what's happening currently. It's being blocked right now for the next 14 days as it's being argued in court. And it's wild. I mean, it's crazy to think that for a lot of these people, especially when you think about like with what a lot of this generation, when we talk about like many don't even speak Spanish per se, right? Or don't speak it strongly, fluently. Imagine you're like parents were born in another country, but you're pretty much Americanized, as most of us are at this point. And then they tell you you're no longer a citizen and you have to go to that country that you never lived in the first place. And again, many might not even fucking speak the language at this point. Many might have, lives over here, careers. They paid to go to college here. They have been paying taxes. They're doing their entire life. And then all of a sudden, boom, this asshole, for no good reason, ruthlessly wants to send you back after you've done nothing wrong. And that's the other hypocrisy that happens, because they're like, oh, we're not anti-immigrant, we're not anti-brown people, we're not anti, people of color. We just want people to be doing things the right way. And we and his argument's like, oh, these countries are sending their worst, they're criminals. These are people that are taking advantage of the system. These are people that are committing crimes. And that's why we need to have stricter policies. Then why the fuck are you targeting people who are already citizens and are literally contributing tax money? And again, probably paid into going to school here, are working jobs and careers here. You're targeting them blindly for no reason whatsoever other than the fact that their parents were born in another country, which again, the norm and the rule of law has been that if they were born in the U.S. on U.S. soil, that they are citizens. So again, the hypocrisy, it goes against your argument. You don't give a fuck about making this country safer or wanting people to pay their fair share. These are people who are literally paying into the same system as anybody else. So you're targeting them for no reason whatsoever other than the fact that they happen to have parents who immigrated here from somewhere else. That's blatant and utter racism right there. And that's what's so fucking disgusting about all of this. Like, it's just fucking... Dude, it's unimaginable. I was already like disgusted by it in general, just listening to it in passing. But now as I kind of like conceptualize it out loud, like get the thoughts out of my head and just like rationally speak about why it's so disgusting, I'm even more frustrated. And again, like I've been talking about this, I haven't been as like on the fucking, I haven't watched the news as much. I'll listen to like there's a couple podcasts that do like a 10-minute sort of like the headlines you have to know. I'll listen to that in the morning. I'll get the information that I need. And then obviously when we do Thursday Trends, I'll kind of dig deeper into certain stories that I think are relevant. But I'm not fucking trying to find out every last quote that Trump said. Like, I feel like I was far too into that last time he was president, and in general, his career as a politician. I can't mentally, I don't have the capacity to do that anymore. Like, I'm literally, it makes me angry and frustrated. I don't want to live like that. So I don't even know where I was going with that. I guess what I'm telling you is that, like, even as we talk about it now, it's like, fucking, hey, man, I'm exhausted, and it's week 1. Now, one of the other things he did was shutting down CBP1 and legal pathways. Trump's administration ended CBP1, a mobile app that had allowed migrants to book appointments for legal entry into the United States. According to NBC News, more than 936,000 people have used the app since its launch, with an estimated 30,000 appointments already scheduled for the coming weeks. The sudden shutdown has left thousands in limbo, many of whom have been waiting for months for their chance to seek asylum. Advocacy groups, including the ACLU, have filed lawsuits to challenge the app's termination. The move effectively closes a key legal pathway for asylum seekers, leaving many with no alternative but to risk dangerous crossings. So here is the again, hypocrisy. The argument is, we want to be able to keep track of people for safety, and to make sure people are going through the proper pathways of entry and are doing things the quote-unquote right way and legally. That's what this app was. These were people requesting asylum and going through the proper legal channels to do so. These aren't people who are trying to sneak over the border. These are people who were saying, hey, you guys said you have to do this the right way, and we're going to do it the right way. Then once again, your hypocrisy is showing because you take that away from them. And again, imploding your argument that we love immigrants. We are a country of immigrants. We just want people to do it the quote-unquote right way. These are people doing it the right way. Yet once again, you're trying to strip them of that opportunity, which is, again, incredibly un-American. And it once again showcases what you really feel. You just don't want brown people coming to the United States of America. That's the real thing, and that's why you've targeted this. And again, he's targeting now refugees and sanctuary cities. Trump's executive orders also suspended refugee resettlement, halting the admission of refugees into the U.S. until further notice. Additionally, the administration took aim at sanctuary cities, threatening to withhold federal funds from municipalities that refuse to cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement, ICE. According to The Guardian, these measures could lead to further strain on local governments already grappling with immigration enforcement challenges. Jeannie Murray, president of the National Immigration Forum, criticized the orders as, quote, disappointing but not surprising. She added that the actions would, quote, separate families and weaken our economy. It's going to be really interesting to that last point. And I hate that ultimately, in order for the lesson to be learned, a lot of people's lives are going to be disrupted and uprooted as we know it. But the reality is America is going to have a very harsh face-to-face with reality when they recognize how much of our economy relies on an immigrant workforce. and an undocumented immigrant workforce, I should say specifically. And it's going to be really interesting. You know, it's going to be really interesting because I was also, there's statistics, and I'm kind of bouncing around as I speak. But there was something like, I think it was half of farm workers in this country are undocumented. So for everybody that voted for Trump and voted for him based upon the idea that you wanted the economy in terms of your personal spending to get better, as far as like you're paying too much for things like groceries, what happens to the farmers who now have to either A, produce less because they have less workers, or B, have to pay higher salaries to hire American workers? What happens to the price point? It gets pushed to the consumer, of course. So if eggs were expensive before, what happens when the farmer now has all these extra costs or has less supply to go around? And that's basic supply and demand. The less of something you have, the more you can charge for it, the more that it ends up being charged. The more the price goes up, essentially, because the demand for it is higher. And I want to be very careful. That's why I'm kind of like really trying to meticulously pick my words here, because I also don't want to fall into the category of like with Kelly Osbourne when she was like, who's going to clean your toilets and your hotel rooms and all these things like that, and clean your fucking, whatever, your kitchen, your dishes. Because as all of us know, there are an incredible amount of well-educated people from our community, well-educated immigrants. The number is only growing of those who are seeking higher education and are completely flipping the script on their history of maybe their parents had lower-level menial jobs. And the reality is both things are true. The younger generation is aspiring and doing far more. But there also is a significant workforce that you would say is technically, quote unquote, they would consider it to be categorized as like unskilled labor. That, again, is the backbone of this economy. Go into your local pizza shop and peek behind the door in the kitchen. A lot of those people are people who have immigrated from other places. And your local pizza shop, whose margins are already pretty thin in general, although they say pizza is the best of restaurants, but in general, restaurants are really, operating on some margins. It's very expensive to run a business in the United States of America. So they save where they can, and oftentimes that is with the labor that they hire behind the scenes. Because for many people who are undocumented, they're taking what they can get. And it's a vicious cycle. But again, it is a part of our economy, a part of the reality of this country, a part of what affects the prices of goods on a daily basis that we can't get away from. And what happens when, God forbid, all those people are suddenly ripped out of here? It doesn't solve your issues. It actually creates a whole nother set of issues in terms of who's going to cover the added cost. And as always, as usual, it gets pushed onto us, the middle class, the everyday person. Now, lastly, this article, We Are Me Too, talks about the legal and humanitarian implications of all of these executive orders. They say the sweeping nature of Trump's executive orders on immigration underscores his administration's aggressive stance. However, they also raise significant legal and humanitarian concerns, from the constitutional challenge of ending birthright citizenship to the ethical implications of shutting down legal pathways for asylum. These policies are set to spark intense debate and legal battles in the coming months. And ironically, like, his boy, Elon Musk, was an illegal immigrant for a very long time, well into when he had already become very wealthy. And he was forced into becoming a citizen, essentially, by his advisors, because they knew he would be targeted if he didn't, essentially. And it was financially something he had to do. He was already making too much money. He had to do it. But he begrudgingly did that. But he was an illegal citizen becoming rich off of taxpayer, dollars, essentially. The same argument they make. But it's okay when he does it because he's a white guy. In tech, particularly. I don't know, man. It's just strap in. It's week 1. And if you are somebody who potentially could be affected by this, I would suggest, you do your research, read about it a bit deeper than I'm going to go into on this podcast. Again, I'm not a legal expert. Maybe I'll have was it Abogada Jimenez? I think it was. She's an immigration lawyer. I had her on the podcast. Maybe we'll have her back on to touch base on this stuff. I think that'd be an important conversation. Somebody who's actually an expert, but just sad, man. So with that said, we'll take a quick break. I'll give you an update on the arsonist who from Missouri who lit multiple businesses in Puerto Rico on fire, who's been arrested. We'll talk about that, but we'll take a quick break here, and then we'll be right back. All right, so we're going to do a follow-up. I had reported to you a story about a Missouri woman who was asked to leave a bar. We're back, by the way, obviously. In Puerto Rico, she's a tourist. Was drunk, asked to leave a bar by the police. They even escorted her back to her Airbnb. She then allegedly returned with a can of gasoline and lit the business on fire, destroying, I believe, 2 others in the process. Then fled back to her home in Missouri immediately. And now we have an update. She has been arrested. She's facing federal charges. Her name is Danielle Berthothi. Missouri woman accused of starting a fire in Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico. She's finally in custody. Authorities apprehended her after she tried to flee the island and avoid the consequences of her actions. The fire burned 3 local businesses. These included Luigi's Seaside Hotel, a restaurant and bar, Bar Marea, a souvenir shop, Bar Marea and a souvenir shop, Artes Juavia. According to court documents, Berthothi cut her vacation short by a week to avoid being arrested for her actions. A federal grand jury charged Danielle Berthothi with federal arson charges for what she did in Cabo Rojo. Again, she's being indicted by a federal grand jury in Puerto Rico. According to the attorney's office, they're saying she, quote, maliciously damaged and destroyed by means of fire a building and other real and personal property used in interstate and foreign commerce and in activities affecting interstate and foreign commerce. The fire, which Berthothi allegedly started as revenge after the owners kicked her out of the bar, not only damaged 3 businesses, and this next part is also sad, the fire forced the evacuation of 50 guests from the hotel, putting their lives at risk. Damn it, they lost their shit too for no reason. I mean, everybody for no reason. And as they say in the article, her senseless action has upended the lives of business owners for no good reason. In an interview with Fox 2, the owner of the hotel, which rented out the space for the restaurant, bar, and souvenir shops, shared how the violent act has derailed his life. Owner Angel Luis Marreros told the news outlet that the news of the fire happened to get to him after celebrating the New Year with his family, and it devastated him. He said, "For me, it was a horror movie." It's just fucking sad. I don't want to read the entire thing. It's just sad. This lady is apparently 36 years old. Her name is Danielle Renee Berthothi, raised in Connecticut, working in Missouri. I'm trying to see what the fuck. Hold on. I want to know. I thought she could be facing up to 20 years. Berthothi up to, I think it's like between 8 and 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. This is from First Alert 4. They said she's currently charged federally with arson, which carries a sentence of up to 20 years in prison. But prosecutors may also be examining her motivation. They're saying it could actually also be reported as a hate crime as well, which would then add even more onto that potential 20-year sentence. Good. Throw the fucking book at her, man. Dude, it's just like I would just for like my own fun, I would love to be able to have her talk about who she voted for. I think we all know who it is. Anyway, drunk or not, man, like it never ceases to amaze me how shitty some people are. Like there's just such a large amount of disgusting human beings. Because listen, we've all been drunk. We've all done stupid things when we're drunk. But it takes a special kind of asshole to set fire to a place like that. That's a psychotic, obviously. But like, I would guarantee this person's a piece of shit when she's stone cold sober. You know, she's a piece of shit. You know, sober, eating breakfast in the morning. The alcohol just really made it that, 10x'd it, if you will. But I don't know, man. It's like there's pieces of shit from every place in the entire world. There really is. But I think there's something to why people hate Americans. Like people outside of the U.S., like Europeans and things like that, and they have their own issues. But like what I always say, where there's smoke, there's fire, and it's a terrible analogy for this case. But it's like the level of American propaganda that we are raised with in this country, I really do think turns some people into just like egomaniacs that take it way too far and have this superiority complex. And quite honestly, that's like the like literal definition of white supremacy, essentially, right? Like, I guess white people have been feeling, superior for centuries, and it's been passed down and then like remixed into American exceptionalism and like patriotism. Now at this point it's called patriotism, but again, like the bounds of it never cease to amaze me, just how disgusting some people are. And like I think I've told this story, but I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but it was like, but I remember it was really jarring to me to be in Mexico. And not all. But it was jarring to me to be in Mexico and to see how some of the American tourists were treating the people that worked there. And even beyond like their treatment of the people who worked at the hotel, just the way they carried themselves, like with this brashness of kind of like, we've arrived type of like, I don't know how to really fucking explain it, but like you could just see them from a mile away, like they had no common courtesy for anybody else around them. And I've experienced that in different ways, but I think it was a little bit jarring because, for me, being in Mexico, that was my first time. I've been out of the country, but Mexico like felt a little bit different, and it was. And I guess I'm older at this point as well, but whatever. Anyway, reel it back in, Dramos. I guess being a bit more self-aware at this point in my life, I went to Mexico with the understanding that I'm a guest in your home, essentially, right? And yeah, I'm paying money to be here, and you know, there's certain expectations as far as like your hotel stay and things like that goes. But I'm a guest in your home, and I'm gonna treat you with respect, and I'm gonna come in here and, you know, be respectful of the fact that I'm a visitor and this is where you live. And it was jarring to me to see how many people, again, not all, but to see how many people didn't walk in there with that same mindset. They literally walked in there like they fucking owned the place and like they were, you know, superior. And it was like disgusting to kind of see, and like just makes me really disappointed in the human race in general. You know, a lot of that right now, as we witness all that's going on. Anyway, so yeah, hopefully she gets the fucking book thrown at her. I'll keep you guys posted as that trial or court case gets underway. With that said, now some positivity. I'm not even gonna get into the Daddy Yankee thing. I'm like exhausted from anything negative. We're gonna touch on Bad Bunny, who's just doing something crazy and inspiring. We'll do that for Mi Gente segment. Mi Gente. All right, I'm not gonna, you know, I know not everybody's a fucking like Bad Bunny stan like I am. Quite frankly, I wasn't even like, I think I love Bad Bunny. I'm a huge fan, but it really, like, this album has made me become a fucking stan. Now, I had mentioned that a part of what has been going on with Bad Bunny is that he is now not going on tour as of right now, but he's doing this residency in Puerto Rico where you have to go to Puerto Rico to see him, essentially, right? And it was from July and then to August, and they extended it to September, July 11th to September 14th now. And I talked about how like it was, you know, at the Coliseum, and it's every weekend, and he's partnering with the tourism board and the hotels, and they're creating these experiences. And it's going to bring in, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars to the local economy and create jobs for that time period. And I personally was like, oh, I'll end up going to one of those shows or whatever. I was, you know, I was watching it, and I saw like at the beginning it was like, all right, the first few July dates, it was locals, like it was only for residents of Puerto Rico that can get tickets. So I kind of thought they were doing like a tier system. I wasn't really paying attention. I also didn't expect it to like sell out like that. This shit fucking sold out within hours when the general sale went online. Y'all, he moved a reported 400,000 tickets in hours. 400,000. And the beautiful thing, bro, the tickets started at like $35. Obviously, that was just like, you know, nosebleeds. They were like $35 up to the best seats were like $200, which is amazing. And then obviously if you want to do the hotel and everything, it's more than that. But like this man could have made a lot more money going on a U.S. tour, but decided to really make this a moment to highlight Puerto Rico, to also say like, listen, I'm already like the thing that so many successful people have a hard time doing, and rich people, and saying, I have enough money. I don't have to do things motivated by money. Yeah, I have to maintain my lifestyle, but I don't have to solely let money be the leading factor. Again, he could have gone on a U.S. tour and made a lot more money. Instead, he said, I'll make what I can from just being in Puerto Rico and selling the tickets for cheap and, you know, partnering with the tourism board and these hotels. It's fucking amazing, man. 400,000 tickets. That means 400,000 people, you know, throughout those weekends going to this Coliseum. It's incredible. And again, projected hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're already seeing the effects of this album on the island. They had their festival, they call it Sanse, or the festival, La Calle de San Sebastián in Old San Juan. They had that this last weekend. And they're saying that his album had an effect even on that. The festival, which has been happening for forever, it broke record numbers as far as attendance of people being out there. And they said even local vendors were able to make more money because of this and creating different knickknacks based upon the album. It's like by him just releasing a fucking album, he literally provided value to the island of Puerto Rico, the local businesses over there, and then obviously people over there just in the streets having fun. I was watching it on Instagram, like the FOMO that I had watching friends out there, hanging out in the streets over there. Like I was so fucking jealous. I'm sitting here freezing my ass off in single digit weather in the New York area. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is this man has had an effect, and I talked about this in the last episode, talking about authenticity. It's just like, it's fucking beautiful to see. It's a celebration of culture, of authenticity, and literally what's supposed to be like a sacrifice, where you're supposed to sacrifice for the authenticity of your art. Most people have to do that. He literally made his truest art ever, and it ends up being potentially his most successful project ever. It's just fucking beautiful. And again, what it's gonna do for the island during that time period, the amount of people I know from up here that I'm already hearing oh, we're going over there, it's gonna be crazy. I'm gonna have to find a ticket. I'm holding off right now, because the resale is fucking insane. I'm going to wait till it gets closer, where I think people are a little bit more desperate. But I had a friend of mine from the island saying that they had tickets. And I was like, oh, okay, how much are you flipping them for? And they were like, $1,000 a piece. I was like, yo, I'm good. And I'm like, for $1,000 a piece, I better be catching this motherfucker's sweat. And it wasn't even that. It was literally not even a front row seat. Y'all are bugging. But hey, do you, boo. I'm going to wait till it gets a little bit closer, and I'm sure I'll catch something at a far more reasonable price as it gets towards the end of that whole thing. But good for him, man. Amazing, and just a beautiful project, a beautiful rollout, a beautiful moment for Puerto Rico, for Latinos, for art, for authenticity. Now, with that said, let's tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for Conclusion Stew.
All right, I always say this, but I'm gonna keep this short because I'm fucking exhausted by Donald Trump week 1. It sucks, fucking hold on tight. It's only week 1. The best advice that I've seen that I'm trying to take to heart that I would share is, and I don't remember where the fuck I found it from, who I credit it to, but basically they said, part of their game, of Donald Trump specifically, is to do all this stupid shit. And I'm not calling the immigration policy stupid, but I'm talking about even if this wasn't on purpose, Elon Musk giving that what looked like a Nazi salute, or some of the outlandish shit that Trump says that it's offensive and disgusting. A lot of that is meant purposely to fuck with us, to make us feel annoyed and frustrated and disgusted. It's meant to kind of have us in a frenzy. They feed off of that. And the best thing you could do for yourself is stay informed, but don't allow yourself to emotionally respond to every single stupid fucking thing this guy does or says. And I've been telling my parents this, don't be watching, because my dad, he'll watch fucking the news for hours. And it's vicious. It's a vicious cycle, because even these pundits on the news, they're just regurgitating and reacting to bullshit for hours and hours and hours on end. And it's all emotional reaction. It's meant to rile you up and meant to get you fucking frustrated at Donald Trump, which, is a very easy thing to do. We all should be frustrated with what we're seeing. But they take it to the umpteenth degree because it's ratings for them. So, again, be informed, but don't allow yourself to just sit there stewing and marinating it in it all for hours on end, and looking at it on social media and all these things. I see these posts on social media. I try not to even read what the fuck they're talking about. As soon as I see something about Trump, I keep it pushing. And like I said, I do my check-in in the morning with the news. I get the headlines I need to stay informed. Thursday Trends, obviously I dig a bit deeper, but outside of that, I'm not hour by hour, minute by minute subjecting myself to the latest stupid thing that he said. It's toxic. It's disgusting. It's meant to do that to us. They're purposely trying to beat us down, to hurt our spirits, to push our buttons, to make us frustrated. And I for one, I'm not gonna allow them to do that. So, outside of that, if you feel like this could be something that affects you or your loved ones, educate yourself as much as humanly possible into what's going on, and whether or not you are in fact going to be affected by it. Like I said, I'll try to get, I believe her name was Abogado Jimenez, back on the show to touch base with all this stuff, so I can actually give you somebody who's trained in this field. Outside of that, this Missouri woman who burned the buildings down in Puerto Rico, throw the fucking book at this crazy person. Like, it's just absolutely disgusting. I hope she gets the 20 plus years that are allowed. It's just, again, shitty people doing shitty things, being selfish, and uprooting the lives of others for no reason other than the fact that they're just hurt people who aren't taking care of themselves and like don't know how to fucking coexist in a world where everything is not about them. Terrible. Bad Bunny, a bright spot here. Making history, man. 400,000 tickets being moved in just hours, all going to Puerto Rico. All that extra, money coming in for businesses, workers, jobs created, the local economy. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful to see somebody put their money where their mouth is in terms of their pride, doing something with their platform. I've criticized him so much in the past. Y'all know, trying to hold him accountable, basically. And I am moved by what he's been doing with this project, and what he's been doing as of late in general. So salute to him. Credit where credit's due. We all could be so blessed to use the opportunities we've gotten in this life for good and for the good of others. That's a beautiful thing to see. So shout out to him. With that said, thank you all for tuning in. I will catch you on Tuesday with a brand new episode. Until then, stay safe and we shall talk soon. Peace.